I'd like to call the meeting, the January 6th regular board meeting to order. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Item 1.2 is the oath of office. Mrs. Dodson.
Okay, we'll have Larry and Melissa stand, and please raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear or affirm that you will support the Constitution of the United States of America, the Constitution of the State of Indiana, the laws of the United States and the State of Indiana, and will you faithfully execute the duties of your office as a member of the governing body, so help you God? I will.
Next would be the election. Do we have a motion for board president?
Move Todd Samuelson, elected president.
I second that.
Are there any other nominations?
I move the nominations be closed.
Okay. All in favor of Todd Samuelson, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. All right, we'll move to the vice president of the board, and I'll give that duties to Mr. Samuelson.
Thank you all. Entertain a motion for a nomination for board vice president. Nominate Larry Holloway.
Second.
Have motion and second for Larry Holloway. Any other nominations?
Motion to close nominations.
Have motion to close nominations. There second. All in favor of closing the nominations, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All in favor of Larry Holloway as board vice president, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. I would entertain a motion or nomination for board secretary. Nominate Melissa Christensen.
Second.
A motion and second for Melissa Christensen as board secretary. Are there any other nominations?
I move that the nominations be closed.
Second. Motion and second that nominations be closed. All in favor of closing the nominations, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All in favor of Melissa Christensen as board secretary, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Thank you all very much. Item 1.6, setting of the agenda. Are there any additions or corrections?
There are none.
You've seen the proposed agenda. Entertain a motion.
So moved.
Second.
Have a motion and second to accept the agenda. All in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Item 1.7, are there members of the audience that would like to speak to any agenda item this evening? Yes, ma'am.
Laura Cryer, I'd like to speak on item 2.12, report of resignations.
Thank you. Any other items? There'll be another opportunity at the end if you so feel. I'm sorry.
We have an appointment today of Amy.
I'm sorry?
We have an appointment today of Amy Jacobs as a preschool teacher at Jefferson. I'd like to say a few words.
Great.
Do you want me to do that now?
Well, we're almost there.
Okay.
So, just give me like 10 more seconds. Okay, I think we're ready to move on to the consent agenda. Are there items on the consent? There's certain items here we need to pull out.
Yeah.
As far as let me just go through here. The first few items we'll need to do individually, I believe. 2.1, appointment of corporation treasurer and deputy treasurer. 2.2, establishing bonds. I think the legislative liaison will need to pull out. The appointment for the strategic plan committee.
Council.
I'm sorry?
Legal counsel.
Okay. 2.6 is legal counsel. I miss any?
Only if we want to.
And we'll pull out the resignations since there's a request to speak on 2.12. Any others? Setting those aside, is there a motion then on the balance of the consent agenda items?
So moved.
Second.
A motion and second on the balance of the consent agenda. Any comments?
I would comment on a couple of retirees. I had the privilege a few years ago working with Mary Gifford and Ken Robinson, and two outstanding teachers at Plymouth High School. It's hard to believe that they're going to retire at the end of this school year, and I certainly want to express my gratitude and appreciation for their work and wish them all the best.
I would echo that. I think the list is coming shorter and shorter of teachers that I actually had in high school. Mrs. Gifford is one of those. I didn't have the pleasure of Mr. Robinson, but wish Mrs. Gifford all the best in her retirement. Any other comments? Let's see, we have motion and second. Oh, I'm sorry. Now, if you want to speak to the appointment, that would be appropriate. Sorry.
I'd like to reintroduce Amy Jacobs. She's a 2008 graduate of Plymouth High School. She has a bachelor's in child development from Ball State, and she has a master's in special education K through 12 from Purdue. So she's covered all her bases. Yes, you know, she's got hands in all areas. She is our new preschool teacher for Title I at Jefferson Elementary, and I'd like to welcome Amy Jacobs.
Amy, would you like to say anything? Opportunity.
Just very excited to work with everybody and for this opportunity.
Very glad to have you. Thank you. Any other comments? Okay. We have motion and second. All in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Now we're going to go back and pick up the items that were pulled from the consent agenda. Item 2.1, appointment of corporation treasurer and deputy treasurer.
So I'd like to appoint Kim Tinky as the corporation treasurer and Wendy Haynes as the corporation deputy treasurer.
You've heard the recommendation. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Have motion and second. Discussion.
Both of them do a heck of a job, and we expect that to continue, and I know it will.
I'm done.
I don't want to go through this too quickly, but we're going to go through this very, but you're right, Larry. They do a great job, and it's a very difficult job, and one that's very
Appreciate it.
important to not only us as a board and the administration, but our community. So thank you for everything that you do at such a high level. We have motion and second. All in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? You can't vote. Motion carries. Item 2.2, establishing individual bonds for corporation treasurer and deputy treasurer. I don't have much content here, but
We have put them in, we have taken those to the recorder's office as designated by law, and they are here stamped somewhere in this file.
so I need a motion to establish those bonds for the corporation treasurer and deputy treasurer.
So moved.
Second.
Have motion and second. All in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? I can't remember if we pulled 2.3 or not.
No.
No. Item 2.4, appointment for legislative liaison. We need a recommendation. I might have.
Yeah.
I think so.
Yeah, this is a person that just reports on, this is the long session, so it from now until, when does it end?
Not soon enough.
Very good answer, yeah.
Yeah.
But most of the semester here, just report each meeting on significant bills and legislation that have been entered or talked about.
I move we keep Todd Samuelson in that capacity.
I second that.
Have motion and second. Discussion. All in favor of the motion, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. be a very interesting session to say the least, unfortunately. Item 2.5, appoint members to the Strategic Plan Committee. I think we have two, didn't we?
Last year, we only had
Did we
one,
only have
maybe
one?
that was because Gary left.
I thought, yeah.
There might be two, yeah, but Melissa served on that committee, and as a matter of fact, we have a report on that tonight. So, yeah, we have two.
Entertain a motion.
I would so move Melissa and Jennifer.
I see the nodding of the heads. Yeah. We have a motion for Jenny and Melissa.
Second.
Did I miss a second? Okay, thank you. Discussion? All in favor of Jenny and Melissa as members to the Strategic Plan Committee, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Item 2.6, establish legal counsel.
I would recommend that we continue to establish legal counsel with, what's the name of the new firm?
It's now Easterday Hudian LLP.
Easterday Huyen, with Jeff Huyen being the lead attorney in that partnership.
Can't you get your name first?
It would cost too much.
I would so move.
Second.
Mr.
Have
Udo.
a motion and a second to retain Jeff Williams as legal counsel for the corporation. Discussion? Thank you for all your service and
Thank you.
again at a high level. And what I really appreciate is how prepared you are for things that we need to be prepared for. So I appreciate that very much. Have a motion and second. All in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Did we pull this 2.7?
No, 212.
I'm sorry?
212.
12? Item 2.12, report of resignations. This evening, under resignations, we have Barb Kraft as PHS attendance secretary, Andrea, oh gosh.
Correct.
Thank you. Lunch aide, Dan Funston, assistant superintendent, and Steve Welsh, aide of Riverside. Entertain motion.
So move.
Second.
We have a motion and second to accept the resignations. Or comment?
Yeah, I just haven't had an opportunity to see Dan since he announced his resignation. I want to take the opportunity to say thank you for everything that you've done for our corporation. We've worked on a number of committees together. Last summer, in particular, as we worked on a committee to look at the challenges that are facing the corporation and our teachers and how to better retain our teachers here at the corporation. I didn't quite know what to expect going into that committee, and it was a pleasant surprise that you came in with a notepad and ears, and you were just going to listen and you were going to take notes. And since then, you put in a lot of changes. The mentor program, we had changes in. You also looked at the induction program that our new teachers were going in, and you made changes there too. It's my understanding you're going to continue to work with those teachers. And again, just wanted to say thank you, appreciate it very much.
Dan, if we vote no, does that mean you have to stay?
I don't know how that works. I want to take a second just to thank the board. I mentioned the principals today, but especially with Darlene here, I wouldn't have the opportunity that's before me had it not been for the staff at Lincoln who, and the board for giving us permission to go one-to-one at Lincoln Junior High 5 or 6 years ago, and being pioneers in that area. The teachers took the brunt of the headaches when things wouldn't work, and Bruce and the technology department. And so I just want to thank the board and the teachers, the technology department for, I really had them to thank for the opportunity that I have. So thank you.
Dan, we thank you and appreciate all your contributions at Lincoln as well as superintendent's office, and you'll definitely be missed. And if this doesn't work out, before we fill all these positions, why, you're welcome to come back.
Okay.
Wish Wish you the best, Dan.
Thank you.
Yes, good luck.
You're still gonna be around here, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
What was the question?
He's still gonna be around town.
Yep. Mondays, I told, is a mandatory work from home day for the company, so anybody wants to have lunch on Mondays, just, you know,
Any other comments? I will miss Mrs. Kraft at the attendance office. I speak to her on a regular basis. So. Do a great job. We have a motion and a second. All in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. I think those are the items that we pulled specifically, am I correct?
Yep.
Okay, we'll move on then to business transactions. Item 3.1, conflict of interest statements. I think really this is an acknowledgement of any conflict of interest statements. She'll have seen and they'll be available for signature.
And they'll be forwarded to the courthouse in the state.
I'm sorry?
They'll be sent on to the courthouse in the state as well.
Great, thank you. Item 3.2, consider post-issuance compliance procedures and resolution.
The school corporation is compelled to comply and follow all mandated requirements for bonds, which includes the filing of continuing disclosure statements. In order to ensure proper compliance is adhered to, we request the school board adopt the two attached items, the post-issuance compliance procedures and the post-issuance procedures resolution. And Mr. Hernandez, that was a long time ago.
They actually originated from our bond counsel and Ice Miller, so
Yes.
much more than just my expertise. The one.
So before us, we have procedures for post-issuance compliance as well as resolution. We'll entertain a motion on both.
So moved. Second.
Have motion and second to accept. I can tell you this is going on all over the country in terms of recent SEC activity that thank you, Jeff, for looking it over. I know Ice Miller is very experienced at this as well. And Candy, thank you for the due diligence in getting this done. So we have a motion and second. All in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Item 3.3, report on strategic planning.
All right, so we did two things this last year on strategic planning. We met with administrative assistants and had them come in and do really a summary of our buildings and where they are, and I think that report was made to the board in either June or July. It was a meeting that I was out because I was going through some treatments, I believe. And then the second part of it was a stakeholder committee, and the stakeholder committee started out about 20 people. We probably had about 15 who were regular, and they were made up of people from the community, business people, people that had children, people that didn't have children in the system anymore. There were some teachers, principals, but they were all residents of Plymouth. And we took a look, we took a tour of every building, and Mr. Schoaf took us down into the lower insides of the junior high, which all of you need to do at some point with Mr. Schoaf. He took us up on top to see some scary things as far as structure of the junior high, but we took tours of all the buildings, and we had Kirk Pletcher from Humboldt come in and talk to us about school finance. That was an eye-opening for a lot of people. Experience, talked specifically about Plymouth Community Schools and the debt that we have and what we can do and what we can't do. And then we came up with some We had two groups, and each one came up with some plans, and we put those plans together, and that makes this report tonight. Remember, this is just a stakeholders report. It's just to give the board an idea of what people saw when they went through the buildings and when they looked at our facilities, and some suggestions they're making for us to look at as we need to know the buildings that we have in our corporation are unbelievable assets, and we have to take care of them, and we have to know when it's time to fix them and when it's time to replace them, and those are becoming more difficult times. So it was a year-long study. Remember, they suggested, administrative assistants, that Lincoln either be replaced all of it or the academic wing of it. And there were parts of the building that they thought could be salvaged if we wanted to build a new junior high on that property. And there are positive and negative reasons to build junior high on that land that's there. You probably can think of some negative things. There's not enough land there really for a big building. The positive thing is that right now, if you close a building, it's open for a possible charter school to be open there. So people are all concerned across the state if they close a building that somebody's going to come in and start a charter school. And it has to sit empty for 2 years, and you have to list it on the charter school. You have to list it on their site so they know that you can start a school there. So they believe that we should keep the promise of 2020. They heard that over and over again. And they also don't think we have the debt structure to do anything before 2020, so it's a really easy promise to make. The local task force came to the same conclusion. They didn't get into any specifics. They just said that the academic part of Lincoln Junior High is out of date, and we've got some reasons here. First of all, it's the only school in the corporation that's over capacity, and it doesn't look like, as we look at our grades going all the way back to kindergarten, this year's kindergarten class, I think there's only one class that's going to go through there that would be right at capacity. All of the other classes are going to be over capacity, and we have a couple junior high teachers here who probably can attest to the fact that it's a pretty crowded building. The rooms offer no flexibility for learning. They're very odd-shaped rooms. I don't remember any of my classrooms when I was growing up being in the shape that the junior high rooms are in. They're all structurally supportive rooms, so you can't take walls out and put rooms together, and so you're kind of stuck with what you have is what you get. So it'd be very, very difficult to make any changes in that academic wing at Lincoln Junior High. It's the oldest and the most expensive for repair. Sometimes something breaks and that part hasn't been made in over 20 years. And so Dave has actually gone over to the CNC shop and had him make a few of the parts because he would have to get it manufactured someplace, so he gets it done here, so he pays $3 for the scrap metal that he used instead of $300 for that part that would have to have somebody make. But he can't do that with all of the parts. There's parking issues and congestion. I thought about that this morning as I came to school, and I made the mistake of going all the way up to the street the junior high's on, and traffic was wrapped around that corner and down the street, and it's probably the most congested building and has probably the worst parking of any building in the corporation. It's operationally very inefficient, and there's really no way to change that without putting a ton of money in. And Dave said we can put a lot of new, HVAC in, and he says, but you're still going to have an old building, and it's still not going to operate very efficiently. We are looking at putting security entrances in at all the buildings, and we don't know really how to put well, we know how to do it, but it's going to be extremely expensive because we would have to come out front and enclose part of the outside. With the rest of the schools, we're using the inside to do the security entrance, and we can do that fairly cheaply. And the infrastructure and systems are near end of life. The underground plumbing and drainage, Dave hopes we can make it till 2020. All of these is the same way. The HVAC and the control systems are very inefficient. And the roof has 3 to 5 layers on it, which you can't do anymore. But it's end of life. So it is a very bleak situation, and it is something. We're in 2014 right now, and so we've had a stakeholder group look at it now. We've had an outside administrative assistants and outside. They have absolutely nothing to gain or lose. Took them around, showed them all the buildings, really didn't say anything. This is the one they said needs to be replaced. They thought there were parts of it that could be salvaged and used, but the academic wing is completely out of date. Then there were some other priorities that we asked them as we went through the buildings to please tell us what their priorities would be as stakeholders. As we look at our capital projects budget that dwindles every year, tell us what it is that you want us to spend the money on that we have. And here are the things that they asked for. They thought it was important for us to put security entrances in all of the buildings, and I hope you've had the opportunity to see the one at the high school. It's working very well. We have plans for Jefferson and Riverside, would be the next 2 buildings. The nominee already has a security entrance. Lincoln will be the very last one because we really don't want to put a lot of money into that building. So that means we're getting pretty close to having a security entrance at every building, and we should get there in the next couple of years. Emergency generators needed at all buildings. Playground upgrades are needed at the elementary schools. We haven't done anything for those in a while. And some of our athletic facilities need to be eliminated, and some athletic facilities need to be upgraded. And I'll go through these so you'll understand what this means. Stuck. There we go. It may have been the way I programmed it, Bruce. I may have put in a whole bunch of blanks in there. Okay, so security, PHS, and Menominee are completed. Jefferson and Riverside are next. Lincoln, as I said, is very inexpensive. We want to put that off to last, and hopefully we'll just be building a new part of a building or a new building. Playground upgrades. Menominee is scheduled for this summer. We signed a contract for the playground equipment, and it does fit with our policy so that it is a boundless playground. The PTO raised the money for the equipment, somewhere around $30,000. The school corporation is paying for the surface, which is a soft surface, so it can be walked on. Somebody can put a wheelchair on it, but if somebody falls, they're not going to get hurt, and that's more than the playground equipment for the surface. So we need to work in coordination with the other PTOs at the other elementary schools to to maybe do the same type of thing that we've done at Menominee. In order to get that accomplished. We haven't worked out a schedule for this. I'd like to spend some time talking with PTOs this next school year to see if they're interested in doing that. So, the emergency generators, Riverside and Menominee already have them. Plymouth High School has generators, but Dave said they're both end of life, and we just wrote a check for replacing one of them. That was $135,000, so we still have to do another one at the high school. Those are very expensive pieces of equipment, but when the electric goes out, and you're in a bathroom and there's no lights and there's no windows in that bathroom, you've got to have some emergency lights. After looking at the expense of what that generator costs for the high school and what we will be talking about for all of the other schools, we are going to look at some other alternatives that might be less expensive and might get us the same way. Bruce has purchased some battery packs, and I think when Webster had their power outage, it was able to keep things going for over an hour and a half. So really, we very rarely have an outage that's longer than an hour and a half. Most of them are right around an hour. They seem to get things fixed. So we may be able to look at those battery packs and having them so that we can at least have lights in the rooms that don't have windows. That way, that expense wouldn't be quite as great. Athletic facilities, the basketball floor is end of life. I know, Todd, there's a piece over there that's got your name on it, I think. The football facilities are end of life. Almost everything at the football field is end of life. People only felt that we only needed one good football field and one good track, one good all-weather track. And when times were good and we had all kinds of capital projects, we were able to support a football field at the junior high and an all-weather track at the junior high, and that may not be something in the future that we're able to maintain. And this is not something that is just here. Every school in the NLC is talking about how, what are we going to do with these things we built in the 80s when money was good, because it's just not there anymore to take care of. We all said that we need to work with partners to make sure that the community has a pool, and that it's the city probably can't afford to have a pool all by itself. The school definitely can't afford to have a pool. I talk to superintendents every day that say their pool is draining their CPF account, and they don't have money to repair their roof. So it's either the pool or the roof. So it definitely has to be a partnership, but there needs to be a pool in Plymouth. And so we need to work with the city and other partners too, because once you have a pool, people are going to want to use it. We just need to make sure that people are willing to invest in it to start with, and then be committed to the maintenance of it, because they're very, very expensive. The basketball floor, thought that it should be done with private donations, with naming rights for the floor, and I think our board president has first ups on that. Todd Samuelson Arena.
It'll be a small arena.
The estimate is $150,000, and that's with all the painting of the stripes and whatever we would do. That floor was Was that built, Larry, in the late 70s? Was that put in the late 70s?
76.
Yeah.
Before I got here in 79. So
76.
76, so it's lasted us a long time. We've gotten our money out of that floor, but I was really shocked when Dave took us on that first tour and to see all the cracks, and I'm not sure how much, we're supposed to be able to get one more sanding out of it, but I'm not even sure we're going to get one more sanding, so it's very near end of life. The football facilities, the crown is completely gone, which creates a drainage problem, which by the 6th or 7th game of the year, if it's been rainy at all, you've got big puddles and the grass is gone, and it's dangerous for the kids to run on. This year, somebody decided that they were going to play a trick on us, and they went out probably with Roundup and spread it all over the south side of the field, and we ended up re-turfing some of that at the end of the year. But we have to do something about the turf and the drainage. New fencing is needed around the field. The new home bleachers are needed. They are very close to being end of life. We put quite a bit of money in repair of those each year in order to have it pass regulations so we can have people sit in it during football games. A new press box is needed, and I've discovered lots about press boxes. Roy said he wanted a certain size, and when I talked to the architects about that, the size he wanted, we would have to put an elevator to get up there. So Roy now knows that there's going to be a maximum size. We're not going to put an elevator in the football press box. The restrooms are an embarrassment. They need a renovation, and they need more storage out there and renovated concessions. Now, the group did a rough estimate of $2.5 million. That's without the renovated concessions and restrooms and storage. That Roy asked me to put that one in because, and he was right. We really overlooked that. So I don't know what the renovation of that would be in additional storage, but the other, I've got the estimates from an architect, and 2.5 is a pretty good estimate for that. And again, they felt like some people felt like it should all be done with private funds. Some people felt like the school had some responsibility for it, but again, they thought that there ought to be looking at naming rights, and we ought to be able to get private funds for that. I'm not very good at putting together PowerPoints, as you can tell. So we said we're down to $3.1 million this year in the capital projects fund, and unless there is some relief, and it's not just Plymouth, it's just about every school in the state, unless there's some kind of relief because of the demands for technology, which has really taken a great deal of our CPF funds. We just can't afford to maintain 2 football fields, and at one point when Dr. Hill was here, we even talked about putting lights at the junior high. But I think, Reed, do you know how many of the games they played over there this year anyway?
We play about probably 5 to 7 each year.
And I know that Roy had to call Carroll near the end of the year when the field was so muddy, and we were hosting a playoff game, and had to have them schedule a game someplace else because they already play a lot of their games over here anyway. Artificial turf was a suggestion only if it was done as a private funding. Private funding on artificial turf by Jim Condon and I took a tour down at Westfield, Washington, and talked to their people, and they figured that they save about $50,000 a year in maintenance because they're going to have they have an artificial soccer field, artificial turf soccer field, and they're just getting ready to put in a one for football, and they figure they're going to save another $50,000 a year for that football field. Now, the artificial fields, anywhere from 8 to 12 to 14 years is how long they last. So there's that end of life. You're going to have, if you do, people donate. They're going to have to, you're going to have to set up a fund where you're putting that money you save into a recurring fund, or you're going to have donations every time you want to do it. But as I talk to a lot of the schools, they're putting in artificial turf because they can play every game on it that you can think about, plus the band can use it, and you never have to worry about it being messed up and it being ruined for the game on Friday night. And so I talked to some of the NLC superintendents, and they're all thinking about the same thing, putting artificial turf in, and they're all thinking the same thing, that it has to be done through private donations. One good track, we could maintain the track at Plymouth High School, and we could use it both for the high school and the junior high. That track gets used very little as it is. Work with the city on the pool. As we talked about, pool should not be the maintenance burden of one tax entity. We all need to pay our share of a pool, building it and taking care of it. And a lot of people on the committee thought that it might be something that we link with the junior high, and that it gets billed at the level, at the site of the junior high. If we're taking away a track at the junior high, then maybe we ought to put the swimming pool at the junior high. So these are some ideas that people came up with. They wanted to make sure we had plenty of parking, though, if we did that, and ease of using the pool during the day. It was very difficult to use the pool at the high school during the day for outsiders, and we've got to think about that as a design concept, that if people are going to come in and use the pool during the week, then we have to have an entrance where that's pretty easy for them to come in and do so. Financing, our debt structure will not allow a major building project until 2020. Kurt Pletcher said right now we have the room to bond for $2 million. So there are some things on this list that we might want to do now. We might want to look at borrowing that $2 million and getting our generators and getting our security entrances and paying for part of that football field renovation. But I think we ought to do it all as a package, figure out how we're going to pay for all of it, and then do the fundraising that needs to be done. This year, our capital project decreased another $400,000. And I think one of the things that I heard this group of people say is that it's private donations is just going to become a way of life for schools, because the money that we used to have and the ease in going through building projects that there used to be. It just isn't, where that's not the reality anymore. And that if communities want these nice facilities, they're going to need to pay for them. Most people didn't think that referendums for football fields would go over very well. So really thought that private funding is the way to go. And I will tell you that I had lunch with two different football alumni, both who have done well for themselves, and mentioned the fact that if we put in, if we were to remodel the football field, would they support that financially, and would they work to go out and get donations to take care of that? And their eyes lit up, and they were ready to go right in. So I think that you have an alumni that would come through, and probably people that we're not getting right now for donations, people that live out of the community who would be major donors. So that's a lot for the first meeting of the year. Questions?
A lot of food for thought down the road.
It is. We're probably going to let you digest it here, and then at some point we'll have probably call a work session and look at what the board's priorities are, and then try to come up with a plan that we can put into action.
Questions? That's a lot to absorb. One of the comments or points about our debt structure and keeping to our 2020, that resonates with me, and a lot of us that were involved in that, so I appreciate that being part of it. But I think, at least in my mind, here we are, I think it's 2050, not 2040, but here we are in 2015.
How many times will I do that this month?
I didn't even catch that, but now I remember hearing it.
He's an accountant.
So, 5 years can go by rather quickly, but I don't think I'm hearing wait till 2020 to jump in and try to figure this out.
Oh, absolutely not.
I mean, you need 2-3 years of lead time on this stuff.
2020 is when you can break ground.
Right.
Oh, I hear that.
And then you've got a couple of years before it's even constructed.
Right.
So even just concepts that we're talking about here, in reality, we may not be opening doors until 2022 or something like that. I mean, just, again, food for thought. It's never too early to start thinking, but it does gotta have some patience and some vision.
Well, and I think we need to, the reason we did this is because I don't want to ever be faced with a situation like we were with the pool, where it was well past a day of renovating. And, if we get to that with our football field or our basketball field, I don't want to ever get to that point again. So
I'm just gonna have to think longer. I know this is just all a concept, if we get the football and track away from Lincoln and there's more space there, but I'm gonna be a hard one to convince if that makes sense. For long-term location and just access and all that, especially with what, I don't know what the city's thinking about in its current facility in the park. And I don't know, I know we're not here to make decisions, but that's, I'm gonna have to sleep on that one.
I'm meeting with the NLC superintendents in February, I believe, and some of them already have plans to shut down some of their facilities because they can't take care of them. The ideal thing would be to build a junior high, a new junior high in this vicinity, in some land in this area, so that those things are all accessible.
I was in one of the groups that got to take the tours, and it is eye-opening to see behind the scenes, and, you know, our maintenance staff does a superb job of keeping everything up to date and safe. But there's gonna come a day when they're not able to. And as far as the athletic facilities, I mean, that's why we got this addition in the first place, was because I remember in junior high, we played our basketball games over at Triton because Centennial Gym was no longer safe. So we definitely need to start now so that we don't have those situations. And, you know, the swim team now swims over at Oregon Davis until we can find a home for them. And just because we don't have a pool doesn't mean we don't have a team that needs support. That's what I wanted to bring up to you.
More to come, right?
More to come. I'll probably, like I said, we'll probably have some kind of work session, so at least see where, let you guys digest this, and we need to come up with some priorities, but we need to work through that.
Any other questions? Thank you, and thanks to all that were part of the task force and having input. It's important to have that community involvement. Let's move on to 3.4, permission to hire.
Yes, we've had 5 retirements. We hired one of them, we hired a math teacher, but we asked permission to start that hiring process in January. And, you know, this is something I started doing last year, not that we need permission to do that, but to let you know as a board that we are starting that process, and we're going to start going out and looking for the best candidates, and we're going to be going to college fairs and talking to people. You know, we'd like to rehire the 4 positions that have retired, people that are retired. We've also got in there 2 vocational positions that I would like this board to allow us to look for candidates in and hire. One would be a person who would be an internship coordinator. We have a lot of vocational programs where their senior year they're really supposed to go out and actually work in a situation where it's not just it's not a classroom, it's a real life working situation. And most schools have an internship coordinator. That position really pays for itself, because right now it's $450 for every person who does an internship. And the seniors who are in the Widener School of Inquiry are all supposed to do an internship, and with probably another 40 or so people doing internships, that position would be bringing in enough money to completely support itself. The second position would be someone to teach Project Lead the Way, a second Project Lead the Way teacher at Lincoln Junior High. Right now we have one person whose schedule is full, and we would like to take the first class, which is again, it's a vocational class, Introduction to Engineering and Design, and the state is now letting schools offer that to junior high students to 8th grade. And we would like to get kids into that as early as possible, because not only is the school reap the benefits of the vocational money, but the careers out there that are open to people who major in engineering thinking type jobs are plentiful. And so we would like to teach that class at the junior high. May not be the teacher may not have a full schedule of project lead the way this year, but at some point they would have a full-time schedule, and I'm sure Reed can use them for other things. But once again, that position would pay for itself with vocational hours.
So in essence, the request for permission you're looking for are project lead the way, that would be vocational money. The intern coordinator, that would be revenue generating. And then the other positions are those to fill retirements.
Just fill in retirements.
Need a motion to that effect?
I think we did.
So moved.
Second.
Motion is second. Discussion?
I think we need to start as early as possible to get the best candidates filling that position.
Have motion and second to authorize or provide permission to hire those positions. All in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried.
Thank you very much.
Item 3.5, consider classified conditions and pay increases.
In your digital packet, you have our classified conditions and pay increases, and we basically gave all of our classified staff a 2% increase. So there were some positions that the job description had changed, and it really needed to be paid a little bit more than that. But basically, everybody in there got a 2% increase, and that fit into our budget. So I would appreciate it if you would accept my recommendation for the new classified pay increases.
I would make that motion.
Second.
Have motion and second. Questions or discussion? Is this a calendar year? Yeah. So when you say fit our budget, that goes back to what we did. So it'll be 2 budget years. Half and half.
Well, no, the budget year is calendar year. And yes and no, yes, but
Two
part
accountants
of it is,
arguing.
part of it isn't, but
Okay, let me ask my
When I
question better.
figured
So we
the
anticipated this
2015
when we
budget.
built our budget earlier this year?
yes, I
Okay,
didn't
that's
have
all.
that in there.
That was the real question.
Yes,
Okay.
I did. That's what we checked before we made any decisions.
Actually, when I went into the office to suggest that, she said, let me look and see what I budgeted. And she said, I budgeted 2%. So it worked out real well.
If I remember correctly, we've not been able to do this very consistently.
Well, there were a few years there in a row where people didn't get raises. And so the last 3 years, we've been able to give raises to everybody. So that's a good thing.
Okay. You've heard the motion, second, and some ill-advised questions. Are there any other? All in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Superintendent remarks.
A couple of things. First of all, last meeting, you asked for how much donations did we get from people? And I have to admit, Sandy remembered this at about 3 o'clock this afternoon, and she said, there's no way I'll be able to do that now. And I said, don't worry, they won't remember. And she walked in about 5:30 and handed me this. So that's the type of person that I have working next to me. She's fantastic. So total donations were $183,140.10. Now, I know that that doesn't include $100,000 for Project Lead the Way that didn't come here, but went straight to the Community Foundation. I also know we have 2 buildings in here that reported 0 donations, so I don't know that that's accurate, but I'll check, and then maybe next year we can just do this on a regular basis, because this is great news that with that $100,000 for Project Lead the Way, we got almost $300,000 in donations from our community, and so we live in a great community. Yeah, we do. So I wanted to say that, and then the second thing is all day long people talked about the weather. So I wanted to talk to you a little bit about what we use here for cold weather and making decisions. 19 degrees below 0, frostbite can form on exposed skin in 30 minutes. And so that's what I look at. If it gets to 18 below 0 wind chill or 18 below regular, then I'm not going to put kids out walking, because we have a 1 mile walk limit. Having little kindergartners and first graders walking to the school, we would at least do a delay and see if when the sun came out it warmed up a little bit. For every degree you get a little bit longer that you can walk without frostbite. So tomorrow morning they're talking around 15 degrees below, and with it being as dark as it is, if it really is that cold in the morning, or even if it's still projected to be that, I might call a delay tonight, just so we don't have kids out walking with the chance of getting frostbite. Later on in the week, they're talking about it being even colder, so I thought I'll look in this chart even further. At minus 34 degrees, frostbite can form on exposed skin in 10 minutes. So I think Thursday night, maybe what we're talking about getting all the way to minus 34 below, but pretty close to that. And you know, we live in a climate where we only get a few days like this every year. People who live in a climate up in Minnesota or northern Wisconsin where it's like this all the time,
Alaska,
where I want to live when I retire, they have they buy coats. They know how to dress for this. Our kids really don't know how to dress for this, and so we have to be careful. But we also have to be in school. So I try to follow the chart, and I try to use that rather than use my heart, because it would be easy to call a delay when it was minus 5 below, because it is cold, and I remember walking to school when it was minus 5 below. But scientifically, they're probably okay to walk to school. All right. So commitment to students. Before our vacation, we had some people that put together everything that was needed for a club called Girls to Code, which was featured on 60 Minutes. All we need now are some volunteers. Media's not here, but I'll call Carol if we can get some volunteers, either from the schools or from the community, to work with this club. It would be great. Caring.
They don't have to know how to code. That's part of the program. Is
code what?
Computer programming. Yeah.
I didn't see 60 minutes. I'm sorry.
Just be willing to work with 6 through 12 girls. They don't necessarily have to know how to code. Sorry.
And the president called
I
for.
suppose I would be a good volunteer if I don't know what it means.
What do you call for a day of coding?
Yeah. Yeah.
So that's and one of the things we're looking for next year, possibly with one of the teachers we hire this year, is somebody who can teach the Project Lead the Way computer science course that's being offered, where coding would be a part of. So we're lucky to get there. One example of our clubs and our organizations that showed caring for other people was the Seed Club. And they adopted a family, raised money, and made sure that that family had a decent Christmas. But the Seed Club wasn't the only one, and there are too many to mention all of them. But we had organizations in every school going out and trying to help take care of people that didn't have the means for taking care of themselves. And it's always neat at Christmas time to see how the school bands together to help kids. High expectations, as you can see by tonight's agenda. Our robotics coach, Mr. Schieber, has the robotic club signed up for 4 tournaments. Is hoping to meet or beat last year's accomplishments, and he had pretty good accomplishments his first year. Team player, 4.4. As you know, we are going to be a few employees short in the central office here for a little bit, but so far the team has really banded together and said, I can do this and I can do that, and trying to help us get through this crunch. And so we're appreciative of that and the way they've come together to be a team player. Integrity. This Saturday night, the Armed Forces and the National Guard are going to be honored at the PHS boys basketball game. If you get a chance to be there, you can help honor these men and women who serve our country. 4.6, enjoyment. Make sure you mark your calendar for next year. December the 11th is now Jim Condon Day, as resolved by the mayor of Plymouth, Mark Center. He met with us when we honored Jim for being named Principal of the Year, and has a resolution where he marked December 11th. So make sure you put that on your calendar. I'm sure there's a Hallmark card being printed right now. Our next meeting is February 3rd. We will take our picture that night, and we will send reminders. I apologize for not sending one this time. I was busy working with the wind chill chart. Really, I forgot. So.
Any questions for Dan? Thank you. Any comments or questions from the audience on agenda items this evening? I don't know if you really want to run off. We've got a finance committee meeting here to follow. If I were you, I would run off. No other business. I'll entertain the motion to adjourn this meeting.
Second.
Motion is second. All in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
We are adjourned.